I dumped my girlfriend after she rejected my proposal 2 times. Now she wants to marry me #Reddit that night as I lay in bed. Her words echoed in my mind. I need more time to figure things out. I tried to rationalize her hesitation. Maybe she was genuinely struggling with personal issues or had fears about commitment that she hadn't shared. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I started to wonder if we were even on the same page anymore. For weeks after the second rejection, things between us grew tense. I tried to bring up the subject of marriage a few times, hoping we could have an honest conversation about where we stood. Each time, Sierra would shut it down, saying she didn't want to feel pressured or rushed. I wasn't trying to rush her, I just wanted clarity. But every attempt to communicate seemed to drive a wedge further between us. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep living in limbo. I had spent 4 years investing my time, energy, and love into this relationship. I had envisioned a future with Sierra, but now it felt like I was the only one fighting for it. I couldn't ignore the growing resentment building inside me. It wasn't fair to either of us to keep pretending things were okay when they clearly weren't. So, I made the hardest decision of my life. I told Sierra we needed to break up. When I sat her down and explained how I felt, her reaction surprised me. She didn't beg me to stay or try to convince me otherwise. Instead, she nodded quietly and said, "I understand." It was as though she had been expecting this, which only made it hurt more. I had hoped for some sign that she wanted to fight for us, but all I got was acceptance. We parted ways amicably, but I was devastated. For months, I struggled to move on. Everywhere I went, I was reminded of her, our favorite coffee shop, the park where we used to walk. Even the little things like her laugh or the way she'd scrunch her nose when she was annoyed. She had been such a big part of my life. And now there was just an empty space where she used to be. But over time, I began to heal. I threw myself into work, started hitting the gym regularly, and even picked up a few new hobbies to keep my mind occupied. I reconnected with friends I had lost touch with during my relationship and found comfort in their support. Slowly, but surely, I started to feel like myself again. About 6 months after the breakup, I met someone new. Her name was Natalie, and she was everything I hadn't realized I needed. She was warm, open, and unapologetically honest. From the very beginning, she made it clear that she valued communication and shared goals. Being with her felt effortless, no second guessing, no walking on eggshells. For the first time in years, I felt truly happy and secure in a relationship. Then, out of nowhere, Sierra reached out. It was a random Tuesday evening when I got her text. Seeing her name pop up on my phone made my heart skip a beat. I debated whether to even open it, but curiosity got the better of me. Her message was simple. "Hey, can we talk? I've been thinking about you a lot lately." I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to ignore her completely, but another part of me wanted closure. After a few hours of internal debate, I decided to meet her for coffee. When we met, she looked the same but different, like someone carrying the weight of regret. She started by apologizing for how things ended between us. She admitted that she hadn't been honest with me or with herself about why she wasn't ready to get married. "I was scared," she confessed. "Not of you, but of the idea of forever. I had doubts about myself, about whether I could be a good partner, and instead of dealing with those feelings, I pushed you away. It was the biggest mistake of my life." Her words stirred something inside me. For years, I had wanted to hear her say those things, to acknowledge the pain she had caused. But now that she was saying them, all I felt was indifference. I had moved on, and I wasn't the same person who had begged for her commitment. Then she dropped the bombshell. "I'm ready now. I want to marry you." I stared at her, dumbfounded. Was this a joke? After 2 rejected proposals, years of uncertainty, and 6 months of silence. Now she wanted to marry me? I couldn't believe the audacity. I took a deep breath and calmly told her the truth. Sierra, I loved you with everything I had, but that chapter of my life is over. I've moved on, and I'm with someone who values me in a way I didn't realize I was missing. I'm happy now, and I don't think we're meant to be. Her face crumbled, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt, but I knew I was doing the right thing. Staying with Sierra would have meant sacrificing my own happiness, and I wasn't willing to do that anymore. After our conversation, I walked away feeling lighter than I had in years. Saying no to Sierra wasn't just about protecting my current relationship, it was about valuing myself and recognizing that I deserved better. For too long, I had put her needs and fears above my own, but now I was finally putting myself first. Today, I'm still with Natalie, and we're planning a future together, a future built on trust, love, and mutual respect. Looking back, I'm grateful for everything I went through with Sierra because it taught me what I truly want and need in a partner. Sometimes, the hardest lessons lead to the most meaningful growth. And as for Sierra, I hope she finds what she's looking for. But one thing is certain, I'm not the man for her anymore. I told her exactly how I felt. If you're not sure after all this time, what will ever make you sure? The words hung heavy in the air between us, a challenge wrapped in pain. I could see the gears turning in her head, but Sierra didn't have an answer. She just kept pleading for more time, like the years we had spent together weren't enough to make her certain. But for me, they were. I had been patient. I had waited. 4 years of love, devotion, and hope. How much more time did she need? I couldn't do it anymore. I can't keep wasting my love and time on someone who can't decide, I said. My voice cracked slightly, betraying how much this hurt me. 4 years is enough. Sierra panicked. Her face crumbled as she started crying, tears streaming down her cheeks in a way that once would have shattered me. She begged me not to leave, grabbing my hands, holding on like letting go would mean her whole world falling apart. And then she said something that stopped me cold. Fine, I'll marry you. Just please don't go. For a second, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Fine? Fine? That word was like a dagger to my chest. It wasn't a declaration of love or a realization that she couldn't live without me. It sounded like desperation, like she was agreeing to marry me because she was afraid of being alone, not because she truly wanted to spend her life with me. That made me even angrier. Do you even mean it? I wanted to ask, but I didn't. I couldn't. I was too overwhelmed to form words. So I just turned around and walked away. In the days that followed, my phone blew up. Messages, calls, and guilt-tripping texts came pouring in not just from Sierra, but from our mutual friends and even her parents. You're throwing away a 4-year relationship over this? One friend asked. She just needs more time, her mom said in a voice that was equal parts scolding and pleading. You're being immature and selfish, another text read. You're overreacting. But was I? I didn't think so. This wasn't just about her rejecting my proposals. It was about what those rejections meant. Sierra and I had talked about marriage even before I proposed the first time. She told me she wanted it, that she couldn't imagine a future with anyone else. She said she dreamed of being my wife. That's why her first rejection had been such a gut punch. I didn't see it coming, and when she turned me down the second time, it felt like a betrayal. I had given her the time she asked for, made it clear I was serious about building a future together. What else was I supposed to do? That's when the doubts started creeping in. Had she ever truly wanted to marry me? Or had I been fooling myself this whole time? Was I just her safety net until something better came along? The more I thought about it, the more the answers felt obvious and devastating. I deserved better. I deserved someone who wanted me, who didn't need years to figure it out. Sierra and I are both 29. We're not kids anymore. After 4 years together, she should have known if she wanted to spend her life with me. The fact that she didn't wasn't just hurtful, it was a sign that we were on different pages. Breaking up with her was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I love her. I probably always will. But love isn't enough when it's one-sided. I couldn't keep putting my heart on the line for someone who wasn't willing to meet me halfway. Not everyone understood that. Some of our friends tried to stay neutral, while others completely took her side. She just needed more time, they said. You should have been more patient. But how much more time was I supposed to give? 5 years? 10? At what point does waiting for someone stop being about love and start being about losing yourself? I've spent a lot of time reflecting on our relationship since the breakup. Looking back, there were probably red flags I ignored because I was so in love with her. For example, Sierra would often avoid serious conversations about the future. Whenever I tried to talk about our plans, where we'd live, whether we'd have kids, she'd shrug it off and say things like, "Let's just enjoy the moment." At the time, I thought it was her carefree nature, and honestly, I admired that about her. But now I see it for what it was: avoidance. I've also realized that I wasn't entirely honest with myself. Deep down, I think I always knew that Sierra wasn't as committed to me as I was to her. But I pushed that feeling aside because I wanted things to work so badly. Love does that to you. It blinds you, convinces you to ignore the little voices in your head that are trying to protect you. Now I'm focusing on moving forward. It's not easy. There are days when I miss her so much it feels like I can't breathe. But I know I made the right decision. I deserve to be with someone who is as sure about me as I am about them. Someone who doesn't need years to decide if they want me in their life. Sierra has reached out a few times since the breakup. Each time, she says the same thing: "I'm ready now. Let's get engaged." But it feels too late. Her sudden change of heart doesn't feel genuine. It feels like a reaction to losing me. And that's not enough. I don't want to be someone's second thought. Love isn't just about feelings. It's about choices and commitment. It's about knowing you found the person you want to grow old with and choosing them every single day. Sierra couldn't make that choice after 4 years. And while it hurts to think about all the time I invested in a relationship that didn't work out, I'm trying to see it as a lesson. I've learned what I want, and more importantly, what I deserve. Some people might still call me selfish for walking away, but I don't see it that way anymore. Walking away wasn't selfish. It was self-respect. And for the first time in years, I feel free. Free to find the kind of love I know I deserve. So to anyone out there feeling stuck in a similar situation, let me say this: don't settle. Don't wait around for someone to realize your worth, because the right person won't need years to figure it out. They'll know. And when you find that person, it'll feel easy. It'll feel right. I don't know where life will take me from here, but I'm finally at peace with my decision. Sometimes, the hardest choices turn out to be the best ones. And walking away from Sierra, that was mine.